What's going on, 49ers faithful? Drew Kerr, 49ers Sports Talk. Today is Monday, June 24th. Hope everybody's having a great week so far. In today's video, I wanted to talk about a few players that I think that are primed for breakout seasons in 2024. So without further ado, let's get into that. All right, so I just wanted to preface this by saying that all three of these guys are players. They're 49ers through and through. They play from the whistle to through the whistle. And so with that, I'm going to jump right in. The very first player that we're going to look at here is Robert Beal Jr. I think his floor is probably the practice squad. That's if he doesn't, shine in training camp in the preseason, but I fully expect him to do so. His ceiling is probably a rotational pass rushing role, just because there's simply not enough, room. Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be probably on the other side. I think they're going to use him a little bit more like Eric Armstead, inside outside, but he's going to be that guy like Clelin Ferrell was last year to kind of set that edge. So on rushing downs, he'll be in there, but in pass rushing situations, obviously it's going to be Bosa and Floyd. He could find himself in a situation that if anybody needs a gasp of air or anything like that, he could get in there. He could do some damage. I think that he's going to be battling probably YGM, Drake Jackson, Alex Barrett. Austin Bryant is probably another guy that he's going to be in the mix with, trying to get a roster spot with. But like I said, worst case scenario, he could just be stashed on the practice squad. Somebody might snatch him up if he's shining in training camp and the preseason. So just real quickly, at University of Georgia, he played 54 games, had 12 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 2 fumbles forced, and 1 fumble recovery. His stats at Georgia, he was 6'4", 255 coming out, but recently on his IG, he looks like he's definitely been in the weight room. He looks pretty jacked heading into the 2024 season. So per sources also, he was moving really well at OTAs, looking pretty good in a lot of the drills, Chris Koceric's drills and things like that. So definitely a player to watch out for, definitely on my radar. Drake Jackson, I think it's probably his bit. I think it's between those two guys. Drake Jackson had that three sack game, then he disappeared, and then he was injured, and so he's got a lot of work to do to try to make this team. I don't think that you could. Well, maybe you could stash Drake Jackson on the practice squad as a practice squad vet. So we'll see. But I think those are going to be the two main guys, kind of vying for a playout roster spot. But I do like what I've seen from Bill on film. I do like what I'm hearing out of camp. All right, and so moving right along to my second player that I think can break out this season, that's primed to have a breakout year, is Brayden Willis, tight end Brayden Willis out of Oklahoma. I think his floor for this is going to be probably the third or fourth tight end on the roster. I don't think that you could really sneak this guy onto a practice squad. I think somebody's going to snatch him up. If you do have to cut him, I think he's going to get claimed off waivers. So there's that, and I think that, his ceiling is definitely going to be tight end 2. He's going to be battling mainly Logan Thomas. They're both receiving tight ends, and so, George Kittle does a lot of the dirty work. He's lost some weight, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can gain all of that back. It's already been reported that he lost 30 pounds, so I don't know if they're going to try to transition George out of that, kind of hybrid blocking receiving role and just kind of feature him more in the passing game like the Chiefs do with Kelsey and other teams do with their receiving tight ends. So that'll be interesting to watch. But I think that, if Kittle gains all that weight back, I think the writing will be on the wall that he will be that hybrid, and then you're going to be looking at either your Ross Dwelley type, that's primarily a receiver like Logan Thomas or Brayden Willis. I think Brayden Willis has a chance to kind of move into more of a hybrid role also, so I think that bodes well for him. He's very versatile. He played fullback and halfback in 2019 and 2020 at OU. I think that he played 58 games, 75 receptions. He had 998 yards, 13.4 average, 13 touchdowns. He also had 12 rushes for 25 yards. Not a great average there. It was like 2.5 or something like that. But, he has filled in those roles, primarily a tight end, though, guys. He's not going to be a hybrid guy. He's not going to be, like Juice or anything like that, or Juice's replacement. I don't think that that's the way the 49ers view him. I think they view him as a true tight end, mostly a receiving tight end. That's what all his film says in college. And so, he did dress for the Super Bowl, just maybe because we had some people injured. But he did dress for that game. He did get his name announced coming onto that field, so that, that bodes well. They trust him enough to give him a game day roster spot in the Super Bowl. So most of the credentialed media at OTAs was singing high praise of Brayden Willis. I didn't really hear anybody say anything bad, and he did stand out. So one of the interesting things, though, was that he didn't attend tight end university. I'm not sure why. Nobody reported why. Nobody asked Kittle. I think Lombardi was there. I actually personally missed. I live here in Nashville, but I personally missed going this year. I'm going to try to go next year. I think Jennifer Lee Chan was there. And neither of those people who are credentialed for the 49ers asked where Brayden Willis and Cameron Latu was, if they got invites, if they had other things going on. So that was kind of interesting. Mason Pline was there. Eric Saubert, who was a veteran free agent from the Broncos, was there, and Logan Thomas was there. So there was 4 tight ends there. It doesn't mean those are going to be the 4 tight ends that are featured on the game day roster, the depth chart, or anything like that. Mason Pline has a long way to go. He's a young player. He's probably going to start on the practice squad, I would imagine, being that he was undrafted. But I think that Brayden Willis has a very good chance to become the tight end too. He's going to have to beat out a veteran like Logan Thomas, but Logan Thomas has battled injuries throughout his career, not wishing injury on him. But those 2 guys should be fun to watch in the preseason. I think that's going to be the battle there. All right, the third main player that I wanted to talk about was Dee Winters, drafted out of Texas Christian University, 2 seasons removed. He did contribute a little bit here and there last year on special teams, and he did dress here and there for the team. So, his floor, I think, is going to be the practice squad. I think that is like absolute worst case scenario. I don't see him being on the practice squad. I think he's definitely going to make this team or make the 53. So I don't see any problem there. His ceiling, I think, is going to be a starting role, that third linebacker spot next to Warner, and I think Campbell's, a shoe-in, I think, for the other linebacker's position. So there's that. He will be battling Jalen Graham, Flanagan Foles, and Curtis Robinson, a veteran, longtime vet in the league. Fred Warner did sing high praises of Dee Winter through OTAs. Obviously, it's OTAs. I don't think that we're really going to truly know what these guys are made of until training camp, until the pads go on, until preseason starts, till the joint practices with the Saints start happening. We're not truly going to know what these guys are looking like in year 2. Brayden Willis, all 3 of these guys year 2. So he is a smaller, faster linebacker, which is kind of conducive to how the NFL is. How do I phrase this? The NFL is transitioning to a more fast, speedy linebacker. They got to be able to cover a lot of ground. You're not getting big thumpers anymore, like Ray Lewis and Patrick Willis. So linebackers are getting smaller. They're getting more athletic. Definitely need to have that, and Dee Winters has that. Jalen Graham has that also. He's a converted safety, as most of you know. So these 2 guys, I think, are going to be vying for a roster spot. There was a moment where Fred Warner said he had to calm Dre Greenlaw down because Dee Winters was out there flying around making plays, and Dre Greenlaw got really excited and jumped up, and who knows, almost maybe popped his Achilles again. He's got to settle down. So I think that Winters is probably the front runner to make that third linebacker spot. But one thing that one caveat there is that he had a tendency to kind of overrun plays when he did get some playing opportunities. He kind of overran some plays. So he's going to have to play a little bit more disciplined. Saleh would have loved him, all gas, no brakes, but sometimes that's a liability. If you're not in great position, you could get washed out in the block. An NFL lineman can easily take a guy like that out that's a little bit smaller. So he's really got to play disciplined football and play with his mind combined with, the athleticism. So at TCU, we played 48 games, had 246 tackles, 33 and a half tackles for loss. So he's just like one of those guys that's shooting the gaps and getting in the backfield, tackling running backs, and 12 and a half sacks, 3 interceptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. He had 7 passes defensed as a linebacker, so he has that capability. And so I think that he's probably my favorite out of these three. I'm a big Sooners fan, so Willis is kind of a natural go-to for that. But I think Dee Winters, the way that he plays the game, with the speed that he plays the game, with the intensity that he plays the game, I think he's going to be a really good guy to keep an eye on this training camp and this preseason and into the season. I think he's going to be a contributor there. All right, and just some final thoughts with a couple wild cards that I think that will probably make an impact in some way or another in 2024. So this is just a notable mention. I think the Renardo Green has a really good opportunity to try to secure that third cornerback spot. Lenore and Ward are going to be the guys, they're locks, they're shoo-ins. But that third spot is going to be up to, Renardo Green, Isaac Yiadom, and Luter Jr. Luter Jr. had a kind of a blunder in the Super Bowl that set the Chiefs up for some points. And I'm not one of the guys. I'm not in the camp of writing Cameron Latu off just yet. It looks like he got pretty big. He looked pretty massive. Saw some footage of him walking in the background at OTAs. He kind of looked like the wrestler Roman Reigns. He's pretty yoked up. He's pretty buff, pretty big. So maybe he can carve out a blocking role. Maybe he can beat out Eric Saubert. I'm not writing the guy off just yet. He did have a really phenomenal catch in the preseason, kind of over his shoulder, looking this way, and caught the ball. And so I think he has potential. He's just got to show consistency. He's got to show that he can stay healthy. But I'm not writing him off. A lot of people have already, just because of what people were saying last year. The game looked too fast for him, all this stuff. And Kyle Shanahan does have a tendency to put certain players in his doghouse. But we've seen guys make it out of that doghouse. We've seen guys like Lenore make it out of the doghouse, Brandon Ayuk. So it is possible to make it out of Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. And my final guy is a rookie, Dominic Pooney. I have a great feeling about this guy. I have a feeling that he's going to be an all-pro in the NFL. Not really sure where they're going to put him. Not sure where Forrester is going to use him. Really wish they would consider at least looking at him at tackle. Right now, Forrester said he's going to move him to the inside, but I think he definitely has some left tackle potential. After Trent Williams hangs it up, 0 sacks at Kansas in 2023. That's phenomenal at any level, not giving up any sacks. So we'll see. And so yeah, I'm very, very excited about these three players and the wild card people that I just named. And so if you guys want to chime in, if there's anybody you feel I left off, feel free to do so. As always, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please feel free to leave a comment with your own breakout candidates. And on your way out, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you already have not. Appreciate everybody who has. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.